Well, here's a picture I drew of old shit-stained crocodile. If you like this type of drawing and more, certainly remember to follow me on the Google+, Instagram, Facebook, and even the Twitter twatter.
One Piece, Chapter 197, The Leaders.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and excellently woven tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us with a number of different things happening, of course, starting up volume 22, and really the chapter, though, ending off being back at the palace, and looks like Chaka had been defeated. He's laying there, he's bloodied, he's broken, with Crocodile standing over him, and then ultimately we see some kind of shadow that calls out Vivi's name, and that's how things end. We know that it is 25 minutes until this huge explosion, this cannon that's going to be fired, that's pretty much going to wipe out all the forces in the area. So that is how things leave off, and that's right where we pick up over here. We find out, and I kind of jokingly had said, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's the Jehovah's Witnesses, and who knows at this point. But we wind up finding out right in the first page that it's actually Koza. Koza apparently used some kind of secret tunnel that he knew about because, of course, he's privy to a lot of that different information. Certainly him and his father Toto, growing up and for a time being in the kingdom over there and being very close to the royal family. He knows these sort of things. And then, of course, being friends with Vivi, I'm sure that she showed him all the cool ways to get in and out of the palace undetected. So he's there, and initially he's kind of like looking around like, huh? What's going on? He's like, I came here to try to reason with the king and the royal army, get them to like lay down their weapons type of thing, pretty much trying to avoid more bloodshed, and like a forced surrender. And he's like, so what? And he sees Cobra pinned up against the wall, blood coming from. Then he goes and he starts getting like flashbacks, right? And this is like the aha, oh shit moment, like I should have trusted in my father and in the king, because then it goes and it shows, like, do you trust the king? Do you love this country? And all this other stuff. And his father saying always trust in the king. And him to have just been so grossly misled by a bunch of different events is absolutely, to me, it's absolutely ridiculous and unbelievable, because if he would have just ever calmly sat down and talked to anybody about it and tried to put their forces together to figure out what the hell was going on, maybe in fact this wouldn't have happened. But clearly that's not the case with him. And you would think that somebody that had such strong roots and loyalty to the kingdom and for the kingdom through his family, through his father, through himself, through growing up and knowing Vivi and Cobra and everything, you think that you couldn't have sold him, a shitty bill of goods, and he wouldn't have bought it, but he did for whatever reason or another. So that is what it is. But it's really kind of cool how you see this all unfold, because he's like, what's going on? Because obviously he sees the hero of their country there, Sir Crocodile, and Nico Robin goes and she's like, just imagine like the worst possible thing that could have ever happened, and that's what it is, right? So he goes and he starts putting it all together, and he's just like, what the, he finally picks up on this. So we wind up getting, and again, he's not all the way into the palace. I mean, they're up towards the top tier of the palace, or whatever. So he's a little bit lower over there, and he's kind of like, talking, like yelling up to them or what have you, but still not far away. I mean, still obviously in visual distance. And King Cobra tells me, he says, listen, a lot of people are going to die if you don't just do me just basically don't even ask me why, just go get everybody away. Get everybody away from the square. And then Chaka starts going and mumbling. He's like, there's going to be a huge explosion. And he's kind of, you can tell he's all messed up, man, because he's like, words are all slurred like he's drunk, but he's obviously just beaten. And even, and even Crocodile's like, oh, you're still alive? So anyway, then, and Koza's still kind of just like frozen there, like, huh, what should I do? Which way did he go? So Vivi goes and drops down and takes out the, the stylish hipster with his little glasses and stuff over there and his cool looking, long jacket that looks like Gambit from the X-Men. And she goes and just jumps down and just tackles his ass, and she's just like, you have to help me, okay? We have to go and work together to get everybody to surrender, to stop this, to basically just to get them the hell out of the square. Because if we get them out of there, then there won't be a battlefield for them to be on, to be blown up on, So then we go and all of a sudden, a crocodile appears behind with this cool kind of menacing sweep of his little fur coat, cape-looking thing and his hook, like this crazed pirate, that he is with his slicked back Steven Seagal hair. And he actually does kind of remind me of like Steven Seagal and like Captain Hook and like just a couple of other different, cool-looking things. So, and like one of those Russian drug lords that have like the big like fur coat, that's just like overly huge for no reason. So, but he comes swooping in though, right? And he's just like, you think I would let that happen, And he's gonna go and take them both out, right? And then at the last second, Chaka goes and whatever strength he has left, because of course he has that power of the Mut fruit, turns into this cool looking jackal dog, right? Which is like the symbol of the country and stuff. Anyway, and he goes and he kind of jumps in front of him, and then he kind of does the whole like, I can hold him off for a few minutes with my, I'll defend you with my last dying breath. Go, Vivi. And Koza, get the hell out of here and go try to get everybody, try to get the Royal Army to stop and the rebels to stop and let's try to avert more deaths and avert this tragedy that's going to happen in 23 and a half minutes, or whatever at this point. So definitely kind of cool how it's all portrayed and pulled out over there because they're able to get away. And then we go and we see the, Crocodile's kind of like, fool, and you know that Chaka's going to wind up being overwhelmed. But if he can buy him that necessary time, then certainly a sacrifice is going to be worth it, at least in my opinion. So the rest of the chapter is what it is it's Koza and Vivi, being able to make their way towards the, the front of the ranks and being able to kind of get out in front of, because the rebels are starting to take out, you hear all these different things from the Royal Army, Squad 2's been wiped out, Squad 4 is this. So the rebels are starting to kind of take over and getting closer to the palace anyway, and as Crocodile had kind of guesstimated, they would be there, for the main battle, right, the final battle, in like 20 minutes anyway, and that's why he was going to blow everything to Kingdom Come in 30 minutes. So we're around that mark, maybe 20, 25 minutes, I'm not sure exactly, but we do wind up having, Koza goes out there and he's going and saying Vivi's telling the Royal Army to wave the white flag, right? And they're like, what, are you sure, Princess Vivi? Do you know what it's going to do to the kingdom and this and that, right? And she's just like, no, you don't understand. We're all giving up. We're all just going to, but we need to go and stop them from coming, start waving the white flags. And he's at the head of them with it, right? So he's standing front and center. So when his rebels start coming in and start flooding in, and they're like, God, take the palace. We're almost there. We'll have the king's head, And they're all, because they're all hopped up, man, and ready to go and all energized. And Koza goes and they see him sitting there waving the white flag too, right? So he's waving it back and forth. So they all kind of stop and they're like, and there's just sort of like this silence between them, and you're like, okay, good. Thank God, And you hear him talking and saying, we're not going to fight. And of course, Vivi's excited about that. They're going to lay down their arms. Everybody is going to be cool, And he's trying to go and to explain that and to let the rebels know it's okay. Don't worry about it. There's going to be no more bloodshed, And that's ultimately what they're trying to do. They're both, now Koza must feel like a horse's ass. Okay? He gets the horse's ass award for the last 2 years because honestly, for him to have bought into all this, I think is absolutely ridiculous and foolhardy of him, being so heavily tied into the kingdom itself. This isn't just some random dude that was affected by the drought, okay? This is a guy who was, like good friends with the king and the king's family and everything else, and to think that he was doing this stuff and just trying to sabotage his own for what? You know what I mean? It makes zero sense whatsoever. But so he probably really feels stupid right now, and of course is trying to avoid further loss of life, which Vivi has been trying to do from the beginning. So all the way back, 10, 15 chapters ago, when she was out there with eyelashes trying to stop the rebels from charging. So we wind up getting, now the thing about this is that that there is still in the rebels as well as in the Royal Army, there is some Baroque Works little underling agents that have infiltrated it. Because we remember when Vivi was trying to get Koza's attention when the rebels were coming across, one of these idiots fired a cannon shot, which of course started churning up some dust, wound up getting them to kind of charge ahead because they thought that they had fired the first shot. So that's really what wind up having happen here, because there's that dead silence, and then Koza's like, the fighting, and he's basically going to tell everybody, like, we're going to disband, like, this is not going to happen anymore, right? And all of a sudden he just, and I'm thinking Crocodile caught up with him, right? But no, then they go and they're just like, the Royal Army shot Koza. And that's how the chapter ends up, with the Royal Army had shot Koza, which we know, and listen, man, I can put 2 and 2 together, and it's not 5. The Royal Army, obviously, it was somebody, it might have been somebody, I guess, that, could have been somebody with an errant trigger finger that was just like, fuck this, I'm going to fight anyway, right? I'm going to shoot somebody. But more than likely, I'm about 110,000% sure that it was one of these, undercover Baroque Works agents that are basically, they were told, like, listen, you got one job and one job only, okay? Now, we don't pay you a lot, but if you fuck up, we're going to send the unluckies after you and kill you. So basically, the penalty for failure is death. So what you're going to do, unless you want to die, is you're going to make sure that no matter what, you're always pouring salt on the wound. If things look like everybody's going to shake hands and heal up, I want you to go and throw a stick of dynamite in the middle and blow some people up, so that's really what they're there for. Ultimately, that's how the chapter ends. And I think it was a good one. It didn't really show, of course, any of our Straw Hat gang or crew. But again, it was a necessary chapter to move and push things forward and to finally go and have, Vivi and Koza together. And even Crocodile made mention that he's like, oh, how ironic it is. We have the two leaders of the, of each side here. And then he basically just rips into Koza and just says, you're a fool for the last 2 years. We're the ones that have been doing everything. We've been pulling all the strings. So that is what leads into and segues into my chapter question. I was very, very critical this chapter, in this review especially, of Koza. Don't know the guy personally, but just from his background and everything they've portrayed and that they've shown, what do you think about Koza being so easily swayed and so easily led? I mean, he has built a rebellion now, of a rebellion that's bigger, that rivals the Royal Army, okay? So this guy, I mean, clearly somebody has pissed in his punch bowl, you know what I mean? And really somebody rained on his parade, and I wonder why he was so easily led. So, again, we can just make it real simple here. What are your thoughts on Koza and just kind of him being so easily led, and which of course caused him to put together this rebellion? Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching all of you in the next one, nation.
What? Some of your pictures are in color? By Jove, you're right!